Guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be on the Cbdc, which is going to be the central bank digital currency. I'll go through this article here by CoinGeek and go over some of these things and basically try to give you some positive and negatives to this. I think there are some positives, probably a little bit more negatives to the central banks creating their own digital currency and trying to push that as like a world reserve stable coin. So we can go through this article real quick and jump right in. Over 80 central banks are looking at digital currencies. This week, one of the world's most powerful central bankers, the European Central Bank, confirmed that she was aware of over 80 central banks currently looking at digital assets. She said it was her duty to basically have these digital currencies available for the benefit of the customers. So it's not all bad things, she's trying to, push it under the benefit of the customer. Will it be possible to switch your digital dollar for euros or sterling with a few taps of a screen? Frequent travelers probably hope so. So now for me, I know personally this is a pain. We took a surf trip to Costa Rica one time, and it's kind of tough because you get out there, you need enough money for the taxi rides, obviously, because you're in another country. You get to the bar, you run up a huge bar tab. Well, did you exchange enough money to cover your bar tab? And, and obviously you don't want to just leave the house with all your cash, or your other currency. And it's tough, but it's nice if you just had a cell phone, flop out your cell phone, hit a few buttons, and then you can exchange right there on your phone on some kind of exchange or, something like that. But with digital currencies, that's a lot easier, having to go to like a bank when banks are open and then say, here, I want you to take my US dollars and give me your country's currency. In exchange. And like I said, do you have enough? Is it enough? What if you have too much? So digital is much easier on the consumer. And it's much easier on the traveler and stuff like that. This isn't really a problem that we run into a lot here in the States, especially me in Florida. There's not a lot of other currencies around here. Maybe in countries like Europe and stuff like that, in Israel, you have a lot of other borders around you, that may just be a car ride away. It might also become the case that the national currencies end up backed by new global standard or basket of digital currencies. Could a digital Bancor become a reality in the age of CBDCs? Time will tell. So there were some other projects I've seen in crypto that were doing this, where they would take a basket of different currencies and put them into one and try to use that as a stable coin. Because if you ever looked at the Forex market, the dollar is always moving against everything else, and there's always some kind of change and moving going on in the market. A lot like Bitcoin, but not near as volatile. You could have a basket of digital currencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and BNB or ADA, something like that. But not only that, you could also do, other currencies. I believe it was, Facebook coin that was doing this as well. They didn't want just a Facebook coin, or just a US dollar, stable coin version. They wanted a basket of all the currencies in the world to try to kind of make it a new kind of world reserve currency and have it less volatile. And that way you always kind of knew what you were pegged to and you knew how much things cost, and that is important. Volatility is not good when you're trying to buy and sell goods, especially, overseas and stuff like that. That can be a little bit tricky. One of the downsides, like this article talks about, is will the central banks be able to freeze or delete your money? That's a big issue with me. They're already limiting your money and what you can do with your own money as it is, even in the normal banking system today. Now this gives them even more control, and especially when you throw in like the IRS and stuff like that, they can already freeze your accounts. But in some of these cases, they may be able to just wipe your account out. They may be able to just take it and leave you with whatever they feel is right. So now that's kind of the problem. What they feel is right, that always kind of, and then you're trying to fight the government. How is someone like, me or anybody really going to try to fight the government? There's endless power, endless money there, and you'll never win. It just doesn't work. So that is a big problem. One good thing about it, though, is, there's going to be a lot more transparency in what's going on. And for me, I'm 100% for that. Especially when it comes to politicians and stuff like that. Who are they taking bribes from? Where is the money coming from? How do they make so much money on a $100,000 a year salary? How do they have millions of dollars when they get done doing what they're doing? It may not stop so much the offshore accounts, and that's a whole other problem, is that, the whole world would have to adopt this one global system. Otherwise, there'd be too many countries that are half in, half out, or not in it at all, just because they don't agree with what the U.S. is doing, or some other countries. So there's a lot to kind of think about there. In the current system, central banks lend money to retail banks, who then lend it to the people. CBDCs and the rise of digital wallets could allow for retail banks to be cut out for this purpose. For example, they could airdrop money to citizen wallets to stimulate the economy or provide relief in times of economic crisis. These changes could also revolutionize how things like welfare payments and tax collection work. But CBDCs, crime, and corruption. An often overlooked element of CBDCs would be what they would mean for crime and corruption. If built on a public blockchain with the capabilities of the Bitcoin Enterprise blockchain, it would be possible to detect fraud, corruption, and theft more easily. And that's basically what I'm talking about there with politicians. Satoshi Nakamoto once said, imagine if gold was turned into lead when stolen, and if the thieves give it back, it turns back to gold again. Now that's a pretty good thing. Not only could transactions, fraudulent transactions or theft be frozen and then reverse the transactions, if they could be proven in court. Which means, again, this is between two people. You know what I mean? This is not between you and the government. There's just no chance for you to fight the you and the government part. But it is a good idea, to be able to have that power in the right hands. That power could be, it could be a very good thing. It's difficult to imagine how corrupt dictators could siphon funds into offshore bank accounts, or how terrorist groups could move funds globally when everything is visible on the public blockchain. This becomes doubly difficult if larger transactions can only move between KYC checked wallets. And then, of course, this situation, I don't think there's any getting around KYC. The banks are going to want to know who you are and how much money you have. Same thing with the IRS. They're going to want to know what's in your wallet, and they can see it all times. It's just tough that, you wouldn't be able to do anything with cash. Nothing with cash. Everything that you would do, everything that you would buy, no matter what it is, would be seen by the government, and they would know where it's going, and you'd have to pay taxes on it and everything else like that. Taxes aren't really a bad thing, but again, I just feel like a lot of these taxes go into the corrupt part of the government. I feel like we could, cut our taxes considerably if we could just weed out the corruption, and then put this tax money back to where it needs to go. And users, developers, and holders of such currencies should prepare for this. Only the legal compliant will survive. And I believe this, and it's not something to scare you right now, because this will be a slow change. The government always moves slow, and they're already so late to them. What's nice to see is, Visa, I believe, is taking USDC as payments on their credit cards. I think that's pretty cool. That's pretty great. If anything, to try to, kind of get your money outside without having to go directly from, your holdings to Coinbase to back to your bank account, they will accept payments in CDC. And that's kind of cool. But the main thing with this, though, is, along the way as they're developing everything, there's going to be a lot more on-ramps for fiat into crypto. Because like I said, right now, the main thing I use is Coinbase. A lot of people can use Binance and some other stuff like that. But this will make things a lot easier for you to onboard money, and not just us, but new users, more people that want exposure to the gains that crypto brings. And I think that could really help push everything higher. At least in price evaluation and market cap, before the regulation really steps in, and either you have to move your funds from one to the other, or possibly have coexist with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see in the next 5-10 years what really happens in crypto and where this is going. So that's it for today, guys. If you would, check out some of the other videos and the links, and then leave me a like, thumbs up, subscribe, and I appreciate your time.